Thank you everyone for registering for today's workshop titled Satisfaction is Worthless, Emotional Connection is Everything. Your workshop host today is Scaplen, co-founder of Leadership in Focus and president of Action Consulting. Scaplen is a relationship-driven leader, coach, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience across diverse industries. He has built iconic brands, worked globally, and known for challenging the status quo. Returning to Atlantic Canada in 2015, Cortex focuses on regional growth and empowering leaders to transform relationships into competitive advantages. Whether he's coaching future stars, working with leaders for leadership in focus, or delivering workshops, Cortex empower leaders to transform relationships into competitive advantages. His company loves to challenge the status quo and is obsessed with solving customer problems. He's committed to build the economy to ensure small business, women leaders, communities, and marginalized groups have space to thrive. Over to you, Curtis.
Thank you. I know, especially from that introduction, you guys are thinking, how does he have 20 years experience? He must have started really young, right? That's the first thought. Thank you for that. Yeah, so just a little bit about my history. I had the pleasure of listening to the panel earlier today, and I can tell you that my career path was not necessarily planned, but one of the things from it is every single experience that I had was a stepping stone, and it all makes sense at the right time. So one of the things, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and I think my parents did everything they could to get me out of the entrepreneurial world because of the roller coaster of the entrepreneurial family. So then I got to be working with Fortune 100 companies that led me to, I started in Halifax, moved to Toronto, and then spent a couple of years overseas in Europe in a global role, which had me in 35 different countries, mostly focused on relationship management, business development, brand building for some of those things. So, and then when I came back, it was really the entrepreneurial spirit within me that drove. In 2015, when I came back, it was all about working with family businesses, learning as much as I could about operating those businesses, and then have been involved in my own business since then. So by all means, at the end of this, I'm going to share my contact information, email. You'll have a phone number to reach, but those connections matter. And one thing that I want to make sure of is that there's the most value that you get out of this today is that there's people that are available that have a vested interest in making sure that you guys have a really strong career path. And so make sure to ask a lot of questions and interrupt this. I'm going to do as best as I can not to have this a one-way dialogue. So you guys will have to do some work, but so bear with me. So I appreciate being here today. It's an honor to be sitting in front of you, and we'll make this as fun as possible. So I'm going to present a scenario to you, and then you guys get to do some work. So imagine that you are the customer service agent that's just received a phone call. You're at a hotel, you've just received a phone call, and a guest is completely panicked. They're stressed, they're anxious, they've left their briefcase, which has their laptop, at the hotel. And they need that briefcase to do a presentation the very next day. What do you do? So what I want you to do is for the next 5 minutes, discuss in your group some options, and then we'll get a couple of volunteers to share. So that situation again, someone calls, they're panicked, they're stressed, they stayed at your hotel, they left their briefcase, they left it overnight. They need it for that presentation. What do you do? Okay? We'll give you 5 minutes here, and then we'll circle back. All right, who wants to volunteer? What do we do? Okay, this table.
So we would first start by just reassuring them that they're being listened to,
Okay.
that their stuff is in safe hands. This is nothing new in the hotel, and these kinds of missing things keep happening, and we're good at finding it. And then we will, let's say if I'm not the manager, I will let my higher up know what's happened, and if I'm the manager, then I'll take control of the situation. And then we will assign the people who were, we will ask the guest where did they last see their briefcase, and if they left it overnight, the room's probably cleaned, housekeeping would have it probably. We will contact lost and found. If housekeeping has it, we will contact them.
Okay.
And we'll just get the right people on the job then.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody have anything to add to that? One of the other groups? Yeah, go ahead to this table.
First of all, you tell them to calm down.
You're not married, are you? Are you married? Yeah. Calm down. I know. Yes, I know what you mean. Sorry, not to pay. Remain calm. Yes.
So I think the best option will be if they're far away or if they're nearby us. If they are far away, then the best option is to trust us. And that would be credentials to your laptop and we can send the file.
Okay. One of you guys, anything to add that hasn't been covered? Yeah.
I would say in this table, somebody said set realistic expectations. Don't like get them overexcited. Don't assure that we'll get it to them. Unfortunately, after doing all of this, no?
So we basically were talking about how realistically we could offer to ship it to them or overnight it, but depending on where they are, then we wouldn't necessarily be able to guarantee that it would arrive in time. And so then it's about mitigating and getting exactly what they need to them. So personally, I wouldn't be opening someone's laptop. I would probably be offering to take it to a service that would be able to do it in a secure manner. But getting them the things that they need in a way that keeps everybody safe from.
Very good. Anything to add here? Yes?
Overnight espresso.
Okay.
Or carry it to them if you need the same thing.
So get it to them.
Car and drive.
Good. I've actually had some experience like this, which I'll share with you, but this is one of my favorite stories of all time. This actually happened. It was in Hawaii. This was pre-Google Drive, pre-cloud, pre-save somewhere else. So imagine, I don't know how, there's a lot of young faces here, so I know this might be tough to get to that. But this is the laptop that had the presentation stored on that. And it was a massive business deal that they were going to actually close the next day. Ritz-Carlton has a policy that for a $2,000 budget, the person who receives a complaint, no matter what your job is, has the ability to solve it within $2,000. The person who took that call had no other way to get it to them, went to the airport, booked a flight, flew the laptop to the individual, hand-delivered the laptop, and came back. That story was long ago. So imagine, I've told this story probably 50 times. If you look it up, you can see it in many books, dialogues. Those are the type of customer interactions that create delight, surprise, word of mouth, contact, right? So we're going to think about those unexpected moments, those 5% that will make a difference so that you will never forget those experiences. Now, not everybody has a Ritz-Carlton budget, but thinking about that, what you talked about, there's a few things here, right? The right people on the job. right? We'll talk about that a little more. In Ritz-Carlton's case, in a lot of businesses' cases, the more the power and the empowerment gets to the front lines, they have the ability to solve the problem like that, which will take away a lot of the friction and the anger and the frustration. The faster the solution can be solved at that level, changes the whole dynamic, right? So you can imagine the frustration this person's feeling over here, and all of a sudden they're frustrated and they gotta wait. So-and-so has to talk to this person. I've got to get this person involved. And that angst and stress and that level is completely changed when the person, that frontline individual has the ability to solve the problem right away. So we're going to talk about Ritz-Carlton's an extreme example, but there's ways in which every single business, whether you're involved in, you work in, experiences that you have, you can start to apply those lessons from it. A lot of you had the idea though. The thing is get it to them as quickly as possible because it's that important. So listen to the problem, understand and empathize how important that problem is, and then let's figure out a way to solve that problem for the customer. Has anyone heard that story before? Yeah. So it's a well-known story. We'll look it up. Today, what we're really going to do is talk about, this is my 7 truths. So there's many other. These are 7 truths for building lasting connections emotionally. This is from a range of personal experience, customer service books, stories that we've heard. But we're going to walk through 7 truths that will really change and hopefully inspire the way we think about customer service. I see a lot of guys, everybody taking pictures. I don't know if I can share the presentation that they can. Do you have the emails that we can send it out afterwards? If the delegates have if you want a copy of it too, we'll just make sure we get your email and I'll make sure that you get a copy of this deck.
I will just double check.
Okay. The first one. Can opens up possibilities, can't creates friction, right? So does anybody remember growing up as a child and you go in with your parents to a store and you're there or you want something and it's like, can I have this? No, you can't. Can I sit there? No, you can't. Can I have the blue cup? No, you can't. What happens? You stop asking, but also there's just this emotional frustration. Once you hear 2 or more can'ts, you really, really have to do wonders to recover that experience, right? So how can we focus on yes, we can in a way that makes the most sense, right? How do we get to a point where we're focused on that 5% of time where you're trying to solve the solution? So I'll give you an example. I recently was going out for dinner with a friend, and we walked in to the front lobby. It was packed. I had a reservation. And I said, hey, they were late. They were running behind. And I said, hey, are we able to sit at the bar just while we wait for the table? No, I'm sorry, you can't. Those bar seats are reserved. Okay. I said, we have our jackets here. Is it possible for you to put them somewhere? No, I'm sorry, the coat check's full. We can't take your jackets, you have to keep them with you. I noticed another table that was there. It wasn't the table that was reserved. I said, look, can we sit at that table? We've got an hour. We're going to be going to a show after. Can we just sit at that table? We'll turn it over quickly. No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. The person has reserved that table. How do you think I'm feeling?
Like you're going somewhere else.
Yeah, frustrated. I was excited. I booked the restaurant in advance. We did everything right. Now imagine that experience another way. If I walk in and they start to say, hey, can I sit at the bar? And you know what? Yeah, we're really sorry. We're running behind. We're slammed. Go sit at the bar and grab a drink. The pressure comes off, right? Can we take your coat? Well, the coat check's full, but let me see if I can put it behind the bar, or we'll make sure we put it somewhere for you, right? So just very, very, very simple yeses. Figure out a way to manage the expectation and say yes, right? So more Kens, the more conflict or the friction that there is, the harder it is to have a positive experience. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah? So that's the first truth. The second truth, the human desire to be taken care of never goes away. Who likes to be spoiled? Right? I mean, doesn't matter what age. It does not matter what age. You can imagine when you feel, what are some words that come to mind that you think about when you're well taken care of?
Relaxed.
Yeah. Peaceful.
Happy.
Secure.
Love.
Pardon?
Love.
Loved? Yeah. I love this.
Appreciative.
Appreciated.
Desire.
Right? So if those words, you know, if you think about being taken care of, and it doesn't change, right? These are fundamental from when you're a child right up through. So in a customer service environment, or if you're in charge of taking care of others, we have to think about that from that perspective, right? How do we make sure people get more relaxed and feel comfortable while they're there? Their lives, everybody's lives are hectic. It's crazy, right? There's a lot going on. Who knows what they're dealing with at home or in other situations? All of a sudden they walk in and they're a guest at your hotel or your restaurant, or they're buying from your business. We need to try to change that dynamic, right? How do we make them feel relaxed? How do we bring that sense of peace in that little moments with them so that while they're in our care, they're feeling at peace, right? Happy. Can we switch their mood? Maybe they've come in, they're down and out. What can we do to take care of them so that while they're there, we create a little bit of happiness from them? McDonald's, I don't know if you remember, they used to say smiles are free when you walked in. And their whole thing was they sell happiness, not burgers, right? So that's the element of there. But safe, secure, all of these things will result in them having a really, really positive experience so that they're focused on telling more people about their experience, feeling good about it, coming back, which breeds this stuff. This is what we're going for, guys. If we feel appreciated, we feel safe, we feel happy, we're relaxed in that environment, we get a lot more of loyal customers who love us. And if you have positive experiences and feel loyal and loved, what are you more likely to do? Come back, tell others. But there's another element to this which we'll get to. If you've done a really good job multiple times and it's been consistent, they're way more forgiving if you make a mistake. Right? So you've built that loyalty, that trust. So when you come in and you have a bad experience, maybe you bring your friends with you and you have a bad experience at that restaurant, I'm going to defend it. I'll be like, oh man, they must be slammed. Maybe they're down staff or whatever. I'm now an ambassador to that business because I've felt so good about it that there's a loyal, deeper connection to it, right? That's what we're going for. Create a vibe. Anybody ever walked in somewhere where it's just apparent that everybody hates their job? How does it feel?
Cold.
Depressing, cold, not very good. What do you think happens to your experience?
It's the same.
It's the same, right? It's the energy. So whether there's business owners here, or whether you're managing, or whether you're a part of a culture organization, it starts with that. It starts with looking after your people, really creating a vibe so that your people, that your staff or your employees or you as an employee, you feel safe, you feel secure, you feel happy. There's a vibe when the energy's high. We're coming into these places and you can feel it. You can feel right away when people are laughing and joking and they're tapping their staff. It might be crazy, hectic, busy, but there's just this vibe, there's energy. You're like, I want some more of this. I want to be a part of this thing. The music's great. People are having fun. They're laughing. So what can we do more of to create that vibe? And it actually, people, we underestimate our ability to change that. It only takes 1 or 2 people with that energy that can really change the dynamic. And I'll give you an example. There's a McDonald's close to where I live. I have a 9-year-old and 5-year-old. I frequent McDonald's way more than I want to. I'll just say that out loud. It was the worst McDonald's experience I've ever had, but it was close to the house. I kept going back, and it was just so frustrating every time. Their orders were never right. They took forever. They just didn't care. The staff were there, just heads down. Probably about 6 months ago, they brought in a new manager. It is transformational. This person is so upbeat. They have their staff high-fiving. They're connecting to the kids. They're making sure the kids, they're getting ice cream cones when they're in there or coloring books. They're having fun. You can see they're joking around with each other. It is absolutely night and day. And all that took was just a change in that emotional vibe, right? So don't underestimate our ability as individuals to change. This is in your personal relationships, professional relationships. Energy is contagious, negative or positive. And that's something that we can control, right? So do our best to bring that energy into whatever situation you're going into and watch people around you change. So whether it's in a personal or professional capacity, create the vibe that you want. And also look yourself in the mirror. Am I a part of that doom and gloom negative, or can I bring better energy to the situation? So that's something all to reflect on. Satisfaction is worthless. Who here was satisfied with their last restaurant experience? Like, say, give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, a good chunk of people. What do we think about satisfaction? Any thoughts? No right or wrong answer. Yeah, go ahead.
State of mind, like you will never be satisfied if you always would be expecting more. My friend used to say like satisfaction is a kind of state of mind. If you achieve that, you will be always satisfied with whatever you have.
State of mind, absolutely. Yeah.
For me, satisfaction would be like expectations, meeting just the expectations, not going beyond. Like if a guest is coming in a hotel or something, he has some satisfaction. We have meet those satisfactions. He is satisfied. But if we meet beyond those satisfactions, then he is happy, more than satisfied.
Did everybody hear that? I'll just repeat it. Satisfaction is the baseline. If we exceed or are very poor, that's where the emotion comes from, right? That's where the emotion comes from. That's where we want to work on. Most of us operate in the zone of ambivalence, meaning we don't care either way. So if you can think about 95% of the time you go to a restaurant, you're like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, my meal was okay. Yeah, I was satisfied. Do you think that's going to evoke that referral? That 5%, the Ritz-Carlton story? Am I boasting and telling my friends about the service? If I'm at 7 out of 10, yeah, it's fine. So what we really want to shoot for is that 9s and 10s. And in order to do that, we have to be willing to take chances, to be able to exceed expectations, surprise, delight, and it doesn't have to be expensive, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But satisfaction in itself is most businesses out there, right? You go to You go to a chain restaurant, you have a fine time, you go out for dinner, you go bowling, you go whatever it is. And you're like, yeah, it's fine, satisfied, 7 out of 10. Let's see if we could stop operating in the 7s out of 10s and get to the 9s and 10s. What do those experiences look like? How can we repeat more of those? What are businesses doing to try to get you to that 9s and 10s? 7s is like mediocrity, right? And the other thing too, which we'll talk on a little bit, is if we're shooting for the 9s and 10s, we're going to have more 1s and 2s, which is okay as well, okay? Because if we're failing at the 9s and 10s, when you get the 1s and 2s, you've tried something, maybe someone had a crazy expectation, but then what do we get to do with the 1s and 2s? Yeah. Yeah, so if they're 1s and 2s, that means they've evoked emotion. That's we want. We want the 9s and 10s because they're over the moon, they're excited, they're happy. The 1s, 2s, 3s, they've given you feedback, right? You know. Now you have the chance to respond. What can I do differently? And from the 1s and 2s and 3s, when you respond the right way to that situation, it breeds loyalty, trust. They actually will become likely your most loyal customers. So your response to the 1s and 2s and 3s has everything to do with trying to get them to 9s and 10s and loyalty. Okay? But satisfaction in service is just the bare minimum. That's mediocrity. So how do we think about things differently to get to those 9s and 10s? So not everyone has to have a budget like Ritz-Carlton. The bar, there's a lot of different cultural backgrounds in the room, which is awesome. I spent some time in Asia and certain places in Europe where the level of expectation, my level rose because it was just, within North America, the bar for customer service is so low that it's actually a very big opportunity for businesses because it now can become a very distinct competitive advantage in the marketplace. And it's just about doing all of the little things right. So if you think about the touch points with customers, how do we get to a point where every single interaction, right from the minute they either pick up the phone to make a reservation or they decide to come to your space, every single interaction is a reflection of your brand, of your company, of their experience. So when we get those things right, what do you think happens? Loyalty, the level of satisfaction goes through the roof, right? So the little things really, really matter. Does anyone have an example of where just one small little thing has changed the dynamic of an experience? Yeah, go ahead.
When they go to a coffee shop and they personalize your order.
Absolutely, right? Or so personalize your order and they're saying your name. People love to hear their own name. The best is I have a couple of local coffee shops where I work out of sometimes, and they get to know you and they know your order and it's ready right when you walk in, right? Doesn't cost them a whole lot. They remember those little things matter. Any other examples that might help? Yeah.
To work on any of the complaints or anything, you can provide compensation or anything else.
So responding to a complaint with, yeah.
Compensation, or then you can acknowledge them. As in in that hotel industry, they are staying for long stays and you can recognize them for a whole stay in the evening and the morning, wishing them good morning, calling by their name.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's that, it doesn't necessarily always have to be compensation, but acknowledging, recognizing, empathetic. The number one strategy, I always say, the number one strategy across the board in any silo of the business and any area of the business is to show that you care, right? So that caring element comes through big time. Yeah.
One of the examples, I worked in one of the hotels in Halifax. So for a few months, we did something like we had a box, a chest kind of box. In that box, we had like 50 to 60 stuffed toys. Little stuffed toys. Whenever a guest comes with a family or with small kids, which we used to offer those stuffed toys to them. But that was going beyond, and the guest definitely appreciated that.
Right, and yeah, absolutely. So just those little things. It doesn't have to be expensive, right? But it's about being kind, acknowledging people, recognizing, and realizing that every single touch point, every interaction is important to the overall experience. And when we stack the little things, the overall experience, which is the bigger thing, is magical, right? But we've got to get the little things right along the way. Someone once asked me what do they think the silver bullet is in business, and the truth is there isn't one, but if I had to choose one, it would be communication. And actually, you know, guys, girls here in the room, communication in general in life is so important. I don't think we can over-communicate. I honestly don't think I think oftentimes we underestimate or make too many assumptions, right? So communication is so key. It's so key. So managing the expectations. So go back to the example that I gave earlier. Coming into the restaurant, you know, I had made a reservation, I show up, I'm there. If someone had come up to me right away and said, hey, so sorry, we're short-staffed, we're behind schedule, we're slammed, you know, are you okay to wait for 20, 30 minutes? We'll get you in as soon as possible, we'll get you an appetizer, we'll get you started with a drink. Immediately what happens?
More accepting.
Yeah, of course. The guard comes down, right? We take the guard down. We're already negative. I got my back up. I'm ready to, I'm in fight or flight mode. I'm angry. I'm pissed off. And then all of a sudden they come in, they communicate, and they be real. They're authentic. You know, I'm sorry I'm slammed. Well, I'm a human being that has been to many different opportunities. I go, yeah, I kind of get it, right? I understand. They've acknowledged it. Now I have a choice now. What they've done is provided me with the information, and now I get to make the choice. No, you know what? I'm sorry, we're in a rush. I can't stay. Or, yeah, you know what? That's fine. We're going to do that. Thank you for being real and honest with us. But that communication just keeps the guard down, right? How do we reduce the anxiety and frustration from the client? And someone else said it earlier about managing expectations. The worst, the number one, the easiest way to fail in customer service is to have the customer's expectation up here and your level of service or your expectation here. The only way to bridge that gap is through communication, right? Either that's through what you describe your business online, how you market your business, the actual interactions that your staff has with the customers. All of those things make a big difference. But that communication is so key. So don't ever think that you're over communicating. And the other thing too is unfortunately, you know, I don't think the customer is always right. Anybody ever heard that? That's not necessarily true, because we've got to look after our people and we've got to be fair, and there's values that we have to play in part. But the reality is everybody there, if we're empathetic and try to be understanding and show that we care and communicate expectations, that level of service is going to go up, right? Yeah.
I've got an example. I've managed some places,
Sure.
and I had staff that would, stand at the door, tick, 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 tick. Oh, let's lock the door as soon as someone's walking up to the door. And what does that tell that business, that potential customer? You're not valued. You're not anything. So I would say, no, you don't do that. We give a little bit of grace. Whose watch is synchronized to standard general mean time or whatever? Hello, we've just closed. I'm sorry we've turned this off, but I can offer you this, I can offer you this, and I can offer you this. I'm sorry, it's just a sandwich, it's just what's in my cooler. I can offer you this. Would that satisfy you right now? And very often they'd say, oh, thank you so much. Oh my God, that's all I needed. I was in my office late. I just needed a little bit of something. Or they're saying, no, I was looking for more. But it was never an angry situation. And I'd have other people saying, oh yeah, but you're giving them an inch, they're gonna take a mile with that. They're gonna show up next day, 5 minutes after it. No, they aren't. You took the opportunity to communicate, educate them, and let them know that this is your time, this is it. And they're gonna be so appreciative, they're showing up at 10 minutes earlier. They're showing up 5 minutes earlier. So you've just created a win-win throughout everything.
Yeah, I love that.
Employees, with the customer, and they've had a wonderful experience. It's the same thing showing up perhaps at a, let's say, a Starbucks, and like, oh no, we shut down this, I'm using that just to say, oh, we shut down the grill, we shut down the thing, even 5 minutes or 10 minutes before closing, and they're saying that they've cleaned everything. It's like, well, your hours say 9, I would expect I can still get it right up until 9.
Yeah, and that goes back to, thank you for that, for sharing that story. And that goes back to that vibe, right? And that energy and trying to get the people that work with you aligned on the expectation that we have as a business and then putting the customer first. So yeah, great example there. Great example. The last one, relationships. I was in the panel earlier and there was that word got used a lot. Relationships, in my opinion, are probably the most underrated currency that there is. We have the ability, that's something within our control, is how we connect with others and build those relationships. So there's words over here that were used, right? Loyalty, loved, appreciated. Those are all words that would help describe a positive and healthy relationship, right? So, but there's also ways, if you think about it, it doesn't have to be, if you've got an hour, if you've got one night, right? There's still ways to connect. The thing is about connecting individually with people. So yes, in some cases, you're not building that long-term, loyal, trustworthy customer. What we're trying to do is connect on a deeper level. I can do my job and just give them what they need, right? But there's ways in which you can make that memorable through connection. If I think about some experiences that I've had, this was St. Regis Hotel in Singapore. If anyone ever has the opportunity to stay at this hotel, it is hands down the best customer experience that I've ever had in my life. They take service to a whole new level. So I'm checking into the hotel. I'm arriving with a colleague of mine, and I look down and I'm like, oh man, I got a presentation tomorrow. I've traveled long haul flight, been traveling. I was like, my shoes are a mess. I had dress shoes on. I said, I'd really like for them to be polished. Don't say a word. Go back up to my hotel, check in. I leave. I come back from dinner, and on the bed are my shoes shined. They look like brand new with a note. Good luck in your presentation tomorrow. I hope it goes well. Like, someone heard it in the earshot. They made the effort to do that. And imagine my surprise when I came back, right? And this hotel was one of the, I also made a joke in it kind of got to the point where it was a little bit like, are they spying on me or something? Like they're listening. I made a joke at breakfast because it was a full Asian, a massive buffet. And I said, I made a joke to my colleague. I said, I'm used to eating boiled eggs and yogurt for breakfast. And I was there for a week. The next morning, I came into breakfast. I sat down. The guy says, hey, sir, I understand you like boiled eggs. We got you some boiled eggs made for breakfast. I'm talking next level service. But again, here I am. That was in 2010. I'm still telling the story. I've told that story 100 times. And they connected with me. I actually, keep on that story. I hurt my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder swimming in the pool there. And it came back in, but I needed to go get it checked out. They sent the general manager with me in their Bentley to the hospital, sat with me, made sure I got food, made sure I was taken care of, and then brought me back to the hotel and made sure everything was okay.
Please don't sue. Please don't sue.
Yeah. I also think they might have thought that I was, from the U.S. and was waiting for a lawsuit or something. No, but those are, the amount of connections that I have from 1 week staying at that hotel. They just went above and beyond. But there's other ways. Again, those are extreme examples. But even if you've got an hour, right, we can ask open-ended questions. Try to make that connection, right? We've all felt it. Has anyone ever been able to connect with someone in 5 or 10 minutes and feel like you've known them? Right? There's just this ability that if you find some common ground, hey, you have kids, or, oh, I noticed your hat, you're this fan, right? It doesn't have to be a lot. But those meaningful connections are going to be the difference between the 7s and the 8s and 9s. Because they're going to remember that. People remember when they feel connected and safe and secure.
Sorry, which hotel was that?
It was the St. Regis Hotel in Singapore. Yeah. All right, so we're going to get you guys to do enough listening to me. Get within your groups as well, and you can break it. What I want to do is this side of the room, if you can talk about your really good positive experience that you had, and then why was it positive, and then tie it to the truths. I'm going to put a slide up with the 7 truths, but this is just so think about a really positive experience that you had. Why was it so positive, and then tie it to the truths. And then on this side, you want to go to a negative experience, customer service experience that you had, and explain how you feel. And then also tie it to the truth. What did they miss in that experience? Clear? I'll put the truths up now. Let's, we'll check in about 7-8 minutes. If you need more time, we have it. If you're done early, great. What was, if you want to share the experience and some of the elements of the negative. Actually, first of all, ask a general question. Honestly, who could think, was positive or negative easier in your brain to think of? So a couple positive, but in general, the negative. The human brain, we're all wired that way. We go to the negative first, right? So that's the human brain. So we've got to work extra hard to get to the positive. So one thing if you could take from here, and just something that I've taken away, because I probably was the complainer or the thought that, because my expectations were raised. What I've done now is started to think of, how can I as a customer give feedback in a way that's more kind? As an example, just in a general rule, forget about the 1-star review online with a raging comment, okay? It's not helpful for anybody. It's that emotional response. So it's the same rule we have in a 24-hour with email. Write it up, think about it, but then sleep on it. And if you still want to give that same review, find a contact information, call the hotel, give them some feedback directly. Especially if it's a small and medium-sized business, guys. It is so hard to run a business. And those 1-star reviews and the scathing comments can really create a lot of problems, okay? So it's really good that we want to give feedback. Remember, we want the 1s and 2s. We want your passion. We want you to share that. But how do we do that? Does it have to be public, or is that more for us so that we feel better, right? Can we go directly to the source, give them some feedback, and talk about the experience? Then let them respond. Yeah.
I'd always heard feedback was a gift.
Yes.
Because it's someone who actually cares enough to tell you where your shortcomings or where you need to improve. So that you may not know that this transpired, but it helps your business just to only grow. So taking it as that gift is that, this is something I have to work on, rather than, they don't know what you're talking about. And that's the way to take it, it's the gift with positivity.
And we're going to all have to, if we're going to work in the service industry, we're going to all have to have thick skin, and we're going to take a lot of feedback, good, bad, and ugly. So sorry to interject there and go offline, but yeah, go ahead. So you guys have a negative experience.
Yeah, I think and with the
Airline?
airline, other airline,
So just went into the abyss, into the complaint box that disappeared.
Yeah, they called in a month ago.
A month ago. How long ago was this? Did this happen?
600.
So obviously there's some emotion attached to that, but tying it to the truth, how could that have been better?
They could have solved something right away, or maybe in a short time.
Anything else they could have done differently? How was the process to give the feedback?
Really wasn't any person that answered things. He was just raising the ticket on the phone.
So thanks for sharing. So timely, again, remember we talked about that. The faster, we can respond to someone, they're in an immediate need, right? And I can guarantee, well, I won't make the assumption. How many people have you told about that experience? Not many? Oh, I want you as a customer then. Well, we just told this many people. But the reality is the longer it lingers, the frustration's there, and then when the time comes, we're going to share that. So timely jumping on an ability, but also, and again, not everybody can influence this, but what's the mechanism to get the feedback? And are people accessible? Are you able to get feedback through? And is someone actually taking it serious? So there's one thing to have a complaint box or a contact us form, but is it being managed and are people being responsive for it? Because you're better off not even having to contact us or form there if you're not going to manage it properly. It's better off not to have it. Because what are we doing when we put that customer feedback up? What are we creating?
Relationship.
Expectation. We're creating an expectation that there's a form there, someone is going to get back to me in a timely manner, right? So thanks for sharing that example. Let's go to a positive one. Back in the back, yeah.
One of my buddies, he works up in Nunavut, and he does 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off, and he was halfway to Nunavut. He was in northern Ontario, and his grandmother passed, and Air Canada flew him home for free after his boss told him to go home.
Wow.
To make it to Nunavut. He just said, nah, family comes first. And then he went to the desk and tried to exchange a ticket. They said, don't worry about it, we're flying out for free.
That's awesome. I just got goosebumps thinking of that. Because you know what? Air Canada gets a bad rap a lot of the times. But I've flown on many airlines. Air Canada is pretty good in comparison to many other airlines out there. But I know we probably all might have a different experience with Air Canada, so we won't be, but that's incredible, right? So what do you think happened? What was the feelings there? What did they do?
They gave him the reassurance that he was going to get home. So they created the vibe. They also didn't say can't. They did the can. Was given and they took care of it.
Right, so they all, that's almost, you could go through the list, right?
Yeah.
Timely, they were taken care of, they showed empathy, they went above and beyond expectation, right? That's a great example. And then it's the human element. We're human, we're empathizing. That situation is unimaginable. That's painful enough as it is, and they're in the air. What can I do to make sure that we understand the problem and try to solve it the best we can? What's our role in this? How can we make a difference to this individual right now going through this situation, right? Thanks for that. That's an awesome example. Over here, another negative one. Is there a negative one that we want to share?
I used my own. I actually delivered a bad experience last week. I work in childcare, and basically I looked over, and bunch of 11-year-old girls had their hands in somebody's mouth trying to help pull out a tooth. There was blood, there was saliva, it was a whole thing. Anyway, just a couple minutes later, a mom came to pick up one of the kids, and I sort of ran out, and I've been at the school for 3 years, I've known the mother for 3 years, and I basically verbal diarrheaed on her. You need to have a conversation with your kid about like hygiene and safety and just blah. And because I was trying to impart important information about a safety concern very quickly and get back to my kids. Unfortunately, she was very taken aback about how I delivered the message. And in retrospect, I can 100% understand why. So that night, she wrote an email to my boss complaining about how I had delivered the information. And the next day, I spoke with her and I apologized. Thankfully, by that point, and because of the way I apologized, about 3 sentences in, she started to realize, oh, okay, Melissa hasn't gone crazy. It made sense to her why I reacted the way that I did. And so she was apologizing to me basically for talking to my manager about it as I was apologizing to her. But yeah, it's tough sometimes.
First off, I have a 9 and 5-year-old, so I think you deserve a medal for working in child care with multiple children, because I have a hard enough time managing 2 in those situations. So, you know, you spoke on one thing about that I don't know if I talked about, but we do things, for the most part, we're not all out there. It's not like we all want to go up and show up and be like, I want to be an asshole today. I've decided I'm just going to get up and ruin someone's life, right? Let's just mess with people today. I mean, there might be the 1-2% that do that, but for the most part, we're all getting up to try to do our best, okay? So most of the time, we're doing things with the best of intentions, okay? So if we give that benefit of the doubt to the other person on the other side, in your case, you know, and I also am a parent, so I can understand the frustration from the parent. We get into Papa Bear mode or Mama Bear mode. It's like, not my child, or what are you doing, right? It's protection. And then that goes into the friction, right? So both sides, right there, there's an intention on the other side. Mom, I'm doing my best to look after my child. I'm doing my best. I just had a crazy day at work. I'm coming to pick up my kids. They're supposed to be safe in your care. Yeah. You know, what are you doing? You, on the other hand, I got 30 kids that all are sick and they're coughing and sneezing and they're wild, and I'm trying to do my best, and I don't have time to deal with this one. Right? 2 sides. Are either one of them right or wrong? There's a middle ground there that comes through empathy, understanding, and that. And the ability to actually apologize and respond. This response, the response to a negative customer experience, is massive, right? I can't state that enough. More often than not, the 4% top loyal customers, that's a real number, are the most loyal customers come from an opportunity to respond to a negative customer experience. Because we're so our brains go to the negative element of it, that when someone really responds in the right way and is human, we start to go, oh yeah, I can see the other side. And oh, they had to try to respond. I'm going to give them another chance, right? So the response is huge. So thanks for sharing that story. And remember that, you know, oftentimes it's like, you know, we were talking about another experience, you know, recently about, you know, a customer making a booking and then them being dead sure that they had parking and they had all these things that they never booked. And, you know, you're the hotel manager, you're the front desk clerk. You know, what do? Like, you know that they didn't do that. You have the reservation. So it's like, I can either be right on both sides or find some sort of middle ground that's going to save this solution. And that's the important part of it, but understanding both sides of it. So thanks for the story. Here.
We went with one that was on actually the other way around. I was the one experiencing. I was the one, I guess, giving the positive experience. A few years ago, I worked for Maritime Bus in Truro, and one of our big
priority packages is anything medical related, so blood, medications, and what have you. A package came from Halifax, it was supposed to go to Amherst, accidentally got dropped off in Truro. Turns out it had urgent on it, so I knew it was medication. So I called the recipient, I was like, your package accidentally got dropped off in Truro, our next bus isn't until tomorrow, would that be okay? She said, well, no, it's important medication, it needs to be kept cold, so I kind of need it right now. I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do. So I called who I had to call, make things. I called my boss down here in Halifax. I go, look, our usual courier isn't answering, so how can I get this to her? It's like, well, you're not really supposed to. And I said, okay, but the courier isn't answering, and they need this. Okay, do it. So I called her. It's like, yes, I'm going to bring your parcel to you. Do you want me to drop it off at the station in Amherst, or drop it off right to you? They go, oh, no, just drop it off at the station. So I dropped it off at the station. Gave them. They put it in the fridge. I called the recipient again. It's like, your package is in Amherst waiting for you, so you can pick it up whenever. They said, well, thank you for that. If my daughter didn't get that medication, she was going to spend at least a couple days in the hospital. So the fact that she got her medication, she was happy, she was relieved, felt like she was taken care of. Then she called my boss down in Halifax and said I did a good job, got her package, and I didn't have to. Even my boss said no, I was going to do it anyway. So.
That's awesome. Now again, those. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and for relating to the truth, it pretty much goes through the list.
Right. So again, we have the ability to control the way we respond. Right? Like, is it Devin?
Yeah.
Devin he didn't need to do any of that. He could follow the policies and procedures of the company, and he would have been right, and he would have kept his job, and everything would have been done. But on the other side of it, there's this, again, ability to surprise and delight and make an impact to somebody's life. And I know that sometimes we're just thinking, it's just a service job, or I'm just, I'm only serving food, or I'm managing a guest restaurant, or it's like, no. You have the ability to impact, in a service world, you have the ability to impact people's lives in such a positive way. Again, your vibe, your energy, right? You had a choice there. It wasn't the company. This was, again, an individual. So sometimes we say, well, my boss would never let me do that, or I'm not allowed to do that. We jump to the can'ts ourselves to make excuses for how we're going to respond, right? Sometimes it's like, what can I do? I might not be able to hand deliver it, but what can I do? And then jump to that, right? So that ability to just solve a problem or jump into action, just to create that unexpected moments. That's the 5%. The unexpected, moments that are going to be the word of mouth stuff, the sharing of experiences, the ones that really make an impact to somebody's lives. So, awesome for the feedback. I'm going to stick around. I know you guys got a bit of a break, but I'll open it up now. If anybody has like Q&A, any questions that you have related to service, if there's just something that you want to share, by all means, we'll open up the floor. And if there's anything that I can help with, please feel free to do so. Any questions related to what you guys just heard?
Your truths really make it easy to follow through and just see the difference that all these circumstances have and how you can easily change it to have that competitive advantage. It really is. A lot of them don't cost extra.
No, and that's another key element. I know I use some drastic examples of like the St. Regis Hotel and Ritz-Carlton and some of these, but a lot of these things are don't cost a lot of money, right? It's just about caring and showing up the right way. Thank you. Any that you disagree with? Does someone still think that satisfaction is a good thing? I'm okay. I threw that up for a reason because I wanted to get some people's attention, because oftentimes that's what we're looking for.
Well, like someone mentioned, satisfaction, it's the baseline. Like if you go above and beyond that, okay, you're doing great. But if you go below that, you're just going through the paces.
Satisfaction is not bad, but it's not good.
I like it. Satisfaction is not bad, but it's not good.
It's not excellent.
It's not excellence, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that I came into this, I picked this one specifically because I kind of disagreed with the premise overall. And I think that was coming from a place of maybe being so dissatisfied with so many of our institutions. Like, for example, we have so much limitation and competition in certain industries here in Canada that honestly satisfaction sometimes is worth a lot more than people give it credit, because it's either being satisfied or being extremely dissatisfied. I actually used an example of my bank and how I'm not satisfied with my bank because, and I listed off reasons, and I was like, there's no emotional connection one way or the other, but it's nice to actually be satisfied with them versus dissatisfied. And so it was funny coming into this and seeing that distinction where you were actually drawing between dissatisfaction and
The good and the great.
The good and the
I
great,
think,
yeah.
That's the big difference.
Because I think that given, like I said, a lot of the fact that we have so little competition in certain industries, we're more or less drawing the distinction between dissatisfied and satisfied versus satisfaction and great.
Yeah, I love that distinction. And you know what? That's purposely done because, and as I said, the bar is really low.
Yeah.
The bar is really, really low. And I mean, we've all experienced it. It's like, come on, there's just certain things. And especially when you get to the point where there's institutions and it's bigger corporations that are protected and they don't really care. They're not going to change one way or another. It's like, I'm still going to have my job. I'm still going to operate my way. I'm actually working with one of the big major banks now on a couple of projects. And you know, they're making a difference in the right way. So one of the things that they've tried to do is, it's mostly working with commercial business, commercial banking, and small and medium-sized businesses, but it's about getting the decision-making power back to the region of Atlantic Canada so that they're not waiting. Everything doesn't have to go to Toronto and it be held up in a process, because small and medium-sized businesses often, just like us in personal experiences, they need responses quick. They need access to their money. They need relief programs faster. So what they've done is just shifted to an amount. Like, the Ritz-Carlton has $2,000 at the front lines. Yum Yums was another example. They put in place up to $50. So like if you're, at the time, you're ordering a pizza from Pizza Hut and they got it wrong, the individual on the spot had the ability to have a budget of up to $50. When I ran More Suites, it was an executive rentals company, and we did the same thing. We had a really easy policy. The customer service, the policy, our principles and guidelines. Is it good for the customer? Yes or no? Is it good for the business? Yes or no? And are you willing to stand behind that decision as an employee? And there was a fourth loose one, was, is this $1 million decision or is this a $100 decision? But really, if those three questions are asked, then they had the ability to do it. So it's really about getting more empowerment down to the front lines. But yes, you're right. Like, the bare minimum is often what we expect. So the bar's low and we have the ability to impact. And don't underestimate your own personal ability to make a difference in the company you're working with. And you know what? You guys were in the panel earlier, and I was sitting back thinking, every single one of my experiences that I've had, I was a janitor for my dad's businesses growing up. And I was the best possible janitor, imaginable. I detailed cars and grinded it out, and I wanted to be the best. Every single job or experience that I had, do your best at it. Make an impact in your own way, because I can tell you right now that it'll all make sense once in a while. When you hit a certain career path, you're going to go, oh, I learned that here. But if you're not open-minded and you're just going through the motions to collect a paycheck, you're probably not going at it the right way. So just some food for thought, too, on your own career paths and what you're doing in that state. Anything else? Thank you all very much. I'm going to put my contact information up here. We have... leadershipandfocus.ca. There's actually, you can sign up. There's a free newsletter. There's a lot of really good free resources as well on leadership and service. And there's an article that's released on a weekly basis. And it's usually pretty authentic, pretty raw, based on real life experiences. So feel free to go in and look at the resources there. And then by all means, send an email, send some thoughts, leverage the contact. And don't be afraid to reach out. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Goddess, for your energy, time, and wonderful insights. So here's a token for you as our
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.